Kip, what's up, brother? Great to see you. Glad to be starting off our week right, like we always do with our Ask Me Anything. And we decided that we're going to try a new segment this week called Headlines. So I came prepared. It sounds like you have as well. And a bit of a disclaimer: I don't know what your headline is. You don't know what mine is. So this is two guys speaking off the cuff for better or worse. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I'll let you decide. I'm fine either way.
I'll go first. I'll lead us off.
Okay, let's hear it.
So this one is not so much of a headline, but I ran across a video over the weekend, and it was posted by what's his name? David Harris. What's his name? I said I was prepared, and so much for that idea. Hold on. David Harris Jr. He's kind of a political pundit, cultural and political pundit on the right side of the aisle, so I'll throw that out there. But he posted this video, and I reposted it on my Instagram page, which is at Ryan Mickler, so you can check it out. And it was this guy who stole some, what looks like, allegedly, I'll say,
from Home Depot.
Stole some tools from Home Depot.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
he was confronted by an individual and decided that wasn't going to fly. So he confronted this, got a little physical, and it looks like a few other guys jumped in as well and basically just ripped the stuff out of the guy's hands and kicked him along his way. I thought this was interesting for a couple of reasons. We can discuss the either validate or decide against the way it was approached. I'm happy to have that discussion. But one of the things that really stood out to me as I posted this was it's a little funny, and it's also quite pathetic how many people lack a basic knowledge of economics. And we can discuss that other part later, but let's just talk about economics for a minute. There were quite a few comments that were negative towards capitalism. Like, why worry about Home Depot? How does that affect the community? That's not a big deal. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And it was all based on economics. The rich get richer, the corporate greedy pigs, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people seem to take issue with the fact that I said protecting these stores in the way that these guys did actually impacts the community.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand that. That was mind-blowing to me. And let me just say real quickly how it impacts the community. If you want to look at some of these larger liberal-run cities, how many of these cities do we see an increasing number of stores? And I'm talking big box stores like CVS and Walgreens that are going out of business. They're not even going out of business. They're shutting their doors because they don't want to deal with the rampant theft that's just unchecked, and it's causing real problems. So what's happening is these stores are closing down, and then people are losing jobs. So that's one way it impacts the economy. If theft continues to go up, then the prices go up for everyday consumers. So that impacts your community. And then what was interesting, as I saw one the other day where it was a Walgreens or a CVS closing in a high crime area, and the community members were crying, literally crying and whining, because CVS has their much needed supplies and things that they need for their everyday living, including much needed prescription medication. Well, here's an idea. Stop voting for liberals that promote unsafe environments for your community members. So if these stores continue to shut down, you're not going to have access to the same services and products. You're not going to have access to the medications that people potentially need to stay alive. So there are so many ways that this impacts a community. And then there's other people who said things like, well, it's not your problem. I'm like, guys, the cost is going to go up if we allow these things to happen. So the lack of understanding about how economics works, the disdain, I think the increasing disdain for capitalism is disturbing, because if you're saying that capitalism is wrong, and I'm not saying it's perfect, please don't misunderstand, give me something better. What's the better alternative? What are you presenting? What are you proposing? There isn't another system devised by man that is better than capitalism. It's lifted more people out of poverty. It's increased standard of living. It's increased life expectancy, standard of living. It's better than any other system out there. Yes, it has its challenges and problems, but it's not about greedy pigs and this, corrupt. There is some corruption, but that's not true capitalism. That might be crony capitalism or something else. But true capitalism is based on voluntary exchange of goods and services. And there isn't another strategy out there that's better than that. That's my rant. We can talk about whether or not these guys should have done it if you want. I'm going to turn it over to you for your take on it.
Yeah, no, we're talking about economics. I can't help but think the social impact of that, right? That guy's less likely to ever come back to that Home Depot and rob that one.
Of course.
Which, guess what? Those are the kind of people that I don't want in my community and in my kind of neighborhood. Period. You don't think that makes a difference? You don't think maybe people that saw that happening, that you didn't light a fire, that those men didn't light a fire in them, saying, you know what, standing up for what's right? Who gives a crap about, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying who gives a crap about the economic portion of it, but we chatted about this last week. What's right is right. Man, how awesome is it when you see people standing up for the right thing? Why? Because it's the right thing. Not because they have to, not because they need to, not because it makes no difference for them in their own personal, because it's the right thing to do. And you don't think that fires people up, makes them proud of their community. Maybe some kids saw them standing up for what's right and saying something that should be said. I think it's awesome. I think it's so good, and it needs to, and we've gotten so passive around wanting to offend people that people will openly be dishonest in their dealings because no one will call them out. Nobody says anything. No one checks them. And I don't like it. I don't think it's ideal. I don't think it's good. And they should say something. And now all these other ideas cross my mind, right? Because I started I put myself in their shoes. I was thinking would I do that, right?
Sure.
And I started evaluating, and I'm like, absolutely. If the dude's that big and he's kind of an overweight guy, right? But I'm like, what if that guy was 6'4", 210 solid muscle? Would I have said something? And you start and now you start having the conversation about being physically capable and how important that is too. And I don't know, man. I love that video. When I saw that, I was like, that's awesome. And I think those guys are mini heroes in my mind.
I agree. And being aware, a lot of people said, well, what if you had a gun or a knife? That's valid.
Yeah.
That's valid. So be aware, don't rush into something. Other people said, well, Home Depot doesn't care about you or whatever. Yeah, true. They really don't. They care about your money for sure. But again, we talked about the societal impact of that. So yeah, be smart. If the guy is, could potentially injure you or kill you, I think you have to be a little bit more aware and be smart of that. Also, I would say some people said call the police. Agreed. Response time might be a little slow. And are they even going to do anything? Because the odds are that it's more likely that the guys who did assault that individual are going to get in more trouble than the guy who actually walked out of Home Depot with all that shit. So what's the solution there? Stop electing liberal politicians who facilitate and encourage this type of behavior, and let's start electing people who are going to uphold the law and abide by their constitutional oaths. And let's get ourselves into positions of power so when we have situations like this, we have a criminal prosecution team who actually is going to prosecute criminals harshly for their behavior. So this is why it is so important when guys say, hey, I'm not interested in politics, it doesn't affect me. No, it does, especially at the local level. It absolutely affects you. So you get involved and you make smart election decisions and voting decisions, because otherwise we're going to see more and more of this.
Yeah, just another form of being passive, right? When we don't do something about it.
Yep. All right, brother, what's your headline?
Here's my headline, right? So I'm not sure if you heard about
this.
this.
You're so giddy about this.
I don't know. Well, I'm being careful. I don't want to nerd out on it. So Google loses 96 billion over the last 3 days in stock pricing. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but they have an AI engine called Gemini. And
yes, I have heard of this.
Yeah, and so it does image generation and more or less it was like showing the founding fathers like with darker skin color, right? And people are more or less, it's a backlash of their AI engine being very woke, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
And they've lost 96 billion because of it, right? In a 3-day period of time, and you could chalk it up to oops. Mistake, bad. Obviously Google already came out and apologized about it, but it draws a bigger conversation around corporate America and government jumping into the space of morality. They're jumping into the moral game. And they're jumping into the moral game, in my opinion, here's my rant, is because people currently are lacking meaning and purpose in their lives. And I think it goes against the human behavior and natural tendencies to not have meaning. I think it's a natural way, part of being human is to have purpose and meaning in our lives. And because a reduction of religion, because of the demonization of religion and those kind of things, we have new generations seeking employment with a company that will give it to them. You see this all the time, especially in big woke tech companies, right? Employees will say this, I want to work for a company that makes a difference, that does these things, right? Said another way, I want to work for a company that I can outsource my purpose and meaning to them and latch onto what they are doing to give myself purpose and meaning. And I think we need to get really present to the idea that this is just a tool used against you. Mark my word, Disney doesn't care about their agendas. Most companies don't care about their woke agendas. What they care about is making money. And they're using that moral stance on something to enlist you in what they're doing as an organization. That's all they're doing. It's just another marketing ploy. And here's the litmus test for this. Watch what happens when stock prices drop. Oh, our bad, right? Budweiser does something. Oops, our bad. Why? Because they're in business for what reason? To make money. The priority is not their moral agendas. The priority is to make money. And they're utilizing those moral stances just to enlist you, just to market you, and to use you. And the government is doing no different than these organizations. And we need to be very careful on when we outsource our moral stance or our purpose and meaning to corporations and governments. And I would even add to like political parties. Here's another stance or another litmus test. Do you get fired up and completely sideways when you talk politics with someone and they disagree with you? If they do, your identity is way too much wrapped up into that political party that you are willing to be upset when someone disagrees with your political group. That tells me you're not mature and emotionally thinking through where you stand agnostic of those labels. So that's, I don't know, maybe that's my rant or that's my call to action, but like it's such an issue and it's pathetic that we fall into this trap so often.
Yeah, those are good points. I was thinking as you were saying that we are designed to serve something, especially as men. Like we're designed to lead, we're designed to serve. But I think this in a greater context really speaks to our relationship with our creator. We're designed to serve him.
Yeah.
We're designed to serve the mission, and we fall short of that. We deviate from that because we have our own selfish desires. But guys, in the absence of a moral higher power, we're still going to serve something, to your point, Kip. And so we find an inferior doctrine to worship, which is like the doctrine of woke culture. One thing you guys have heard me say is the doctrine of popular culture, which is this woke ideology that every indicator of power is a sign of, some sort of tyrannical patriarchy and oppression and victimization. Heaven forbid it was on merit itself. And then there's also this revisionist history in these quote unquote AI things. I don't even like artificial intelligence because it's an oxymoron a little bit when somebody's in there coding their own biases into programs and then saying that this is separate of those biases. It's not. Clearly what was written as the algorithm for Gemini was written by an individual who has a bias, as we all do, but then it's marketed as no bias at all, completely independent and separate from any personal bias, when clearly it's not. But I pulled something up here that I thought was interesting, and this scripture actually came to mind. And I'm not any sort of biblical scholar by any means, but for whatever reason,
dropping the word on Monday.
I remember this. For some reason, I remember this, and it's Matthew 6:24, and I'll just read from the King James Version. It says, "No man can serve two masters, for he will either hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon," which is equated to money, wealth, abundance, that sort of thing. Guys, if we're worshiping the wrong thing, whether it's this doctrine of popular culture or other people, influencers on social media, or any number of things that we fall prey to and create as false idols, we're going to despise the other. And the other is virtue, righteousness, God's word. So anyways,
yeah, I love it.
That's kind of how I look at it.
I made this post, almost 9 months ago. I like this. I wrote, "We all want purpose and meaning. Be careful on who and what you have outsourced that to. That is your new God."
Same, right?
Yeah. Good
All
stuff.
right. Well, great headlines. We'll keep it coming, guys. You let us know what you think of the headlines. I'm sure there's differing opinions. We'd love to hear them. And if you like the segment, we'll keep doing it. All right, kid, let's get to some questions today.
Yeah, so we're going to field some questions from the Iron Council. To learn more about our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. Roughly in about 10 days or so, we're going to be opening up enrollment, the 15th of March. So once again, orderofman.com/Iron Council. First question, Jay Gerdulo. Do you ever find yourself feeling cynical about the world, and how do you overcome this feeling? I really like this question because I'm overly cynical about the world. Right? And how do we, I'm assuming what Jay's asking is how do we be positive too and not just be a downer all the time, right?
I think it's natural to experience cynicism.
Yeah.
I would be worried if I was never cynical about anything, because it would almost indicate a lack of care, some sort of apathy towards whatever we might be dealing with. And there are things that I frankly just don't care about.
Yeah.
And there's other things that I get fired up. I mean, we just did 2 headlines that both of us are excited about, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that we were being cynical necessarily. I hope we were looking at it intelligently and reasonably. But yeah, I do get cynical about a lot of things that I see, whether it's in the work environment, or somebody hoses me, or in culture in general, or even in relationships. You know, it's easy to think the worst about somebody, or jump to conclusions, or let your insecurities get in the way. So I think realizing that being cynical is actually just a human condition, and it's designed to keep you safe and protected, that awareness is really helpful, because then you can decide how to respond to the way that you're feeling. So to me, the emotion isn't the problem. Anger, frustration, shame, guilt, sorrow, remorse, whatever,
indicators
is
on the
not
dashboard.
the problem.
Yeah.
That's all it is. The problem is, how do we respond to it? So the analogy that I've used is what you just said. If you're looking at your dashboard on your vehicle, you're driving down the road, and the little flickering light comes on and says low gas, you don't jerk your car off the side of the road and go wrap it around a tree or a telephone pole. You slow down, you figure out where the next exit is, you take the exit, you pull into the gas station, you pump your gas, and then you get back on the road, no harm, no foul. You address the issue and you're back on your way. Slowed you down a little bit, but you're safe. Everybody's safe and you're going to get to where you were going. But that's what we laugh at that analogy, but that's what we do when we get angry and we decide to punch a wall, or angry about how work went and then we lash out at our spouse or our children. It's the same thing that we're doing. But being aware of it helps you refine it, helps you temper it, helps you understand that, it's how do I respond to what I'm feeling? And to answer Jay's question, I think it's taking action.
Yeah.
If something comes up and I get frustrated about it, but there's nothing I can do about it, then I try to let those things slide, because what's the point of just stewing and brewing on something that's just going to piss me off all day? But then I can segment the things that I'm interested in or that I'm cynical about or frustrated with into, and compartmentalize into items of action. Now, all of a sudden, if I see something going wrong and I take action, I'm not as cynical about it because I'm moving towards the result. I'm actually part of the solution, not just griping and moaning about the problem. So the answer to me is taking action, leaving what you have no control over, taking action towards the things that you do, and be, as I think Gandhi would say, be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah. The only thing that I'd add, and I'm projecting what I do, is I'll do that, Ryan. I'll take action, but I'll taking action while having a heart at war towards you the whole time, right? And so I'll be like,
sure,
oh, Ryan should have done this. And so the whole time I'll take action, I'll get it done, but I'm doing it really from a real negative space, right? And then I'll show up.
Yeah.
I'll show up really negative. And so for me, what has been powerful is understanding the human condition. Like, far too often, most things that make me upset, it's a human. It's not like the weather's bad and I'm mad at the weather. I don't get mad at the weather, but I get mad at some moron that does something that I'm like, why did you do it that way? And I don't, you know what I mean? And I've placed harsh judgment on them. And I have this expectation of how it should or should have gone. And I'll take action, but the whole time I'm doing it in a really negative way. And the best way that I've learned to deal with that is to understand the human condition. That most people, when they're doing something stupid, they're not doing it to piss me off. That they're actually trying. That based upon where they are in their life, that's the best they could do. They don't know a better way, or they're acting out of insecurity. Like, there's so much to the story, and I need to have grace towards other humans and realizing that they have their own battles. They're trying their best, and I need to be a little bit slower to judge, and then look at the opportunity as a space to serve and to help, not as a space to get it done and then rub it in their face, or, you know what I mean, other negative emotions towards them.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said. The other only consideration here is, I know Jay, both of us do personally, he's a good friend of both of ours. He's in a line of work where it would be hard not to be cynical. He's a police officer. So totally he's dealing with not only, some of the worst people on the planet at times, but he's also dealing with the red tape and the bureaucracy and the bullcrap. And in those instances, I think you do the best that you can do. You remember why you're doing it. You try to make a difference. And then also you try to compartmentalize it. So when you get home, leave that stuff as best you can and engage with your family, engage with your hobbies and your activities and your interests and the things that fuel you in a positive, constructive way, because you spend so much time in a really dark profession, and one that is increasingly unpopular in the country, which makes it even harder.
Yeah, it's super tough. I've known friends that were in law enforcement, and their primary reason of stepping away is just it was eating at them.
Yeah, of course. How could it not?
Yeah, it'd be tough. Appreciate you, Jay. By the way, Jay shows up super powerfully within the Iron Council for so many men. And I personally look up to Jay. I know a lot of guys do. And so maybe just a public expression of appreciation to you, Jay, and not just what you do from a work perspective, but what you do even within the Iron Council. So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Pramit Ball, he has a question around self-worth. This is fun, actually. I really like this. So thanks, Pramit, for submitting this. Would like some strategies around building self-worth outside of what's going on at work. Context, I have gotten laid off in September, and while I was able to find a new job fairly quickly, I've had to take a pay cut for it. While I do enjoy the new role, it has been a big improvement in terms of my physical and mental health. I do find myself tying some of my self-worth to what I make now. So based upon his compensation. I am on a work visa, so I can't run any active side income streams. Thanks again.
Yeah, look, we use the term worth like as a net worth, as in financial. It is a metric. I'm not going to pretend it isn't.
Yeah.
And so I look at the measurement of my income as a metric of the value I've provided to other people.
Totally.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. Now, if we tie up all of our identity into what we make, because look, you can have broke people who are great people and you can have rich people who are horrible people and vice versa. So it's not merely, or it's not the sum of your worth. It's a fraction or an element of your worth. And then your question is, what do you do outside of it? Well, you keep commitments with yourself and you be aspirational. So you're listening to this on a Wednesday. We're recording on Monday. I start every day with aspirations, and I'm not talking about some sort of affirmation that I read. That's never been a thing for me. I know Kip, you do a little bit more than I do. It's just it doesn't resonate with me. What I do is I think about what I want to accomplish this day. So that's aspirational in nature. What do I want to accomplish this week? What do I have coming up? What's next month? What goals do I have? I'm actually looking at my goals in front of me every single day in my task list. And then my job is to be in integrity with this.
Yeah.
That's it. This is my job. If I can be in integrity with the words that are written down in this book, then I will develop a sense of self-worth, as Kip says, that's big enough for, everybody else, or whatever you said a couple of weeks ago about me.
Yeah.
So
Ryan's affirmations are just reading all the direct messages that he gets from all of you, praising his greatness. That's his morning.
Oh yeah, because that's the only kind of direct messages I get is the good ones. The bad ones keep me in check, and they are abundant. I actually had somebody on YouTube just over the past couple of days. This is mind-blowing to me. They'll go in, it's the same person from the same account, and it looks like it might be a fake account or something they created just to harass.
Just to harass you.
And they'll go in and they'll leave comments on like 20 different videos. And I haven't responded to either one because why?
Yeah.
But it's hilarious to me. I'm like, what? Like, don't you have anything better to do? And I only see it because it pulls up in my emails or a notification if I get a new comment. And so I see them and it's like, I'm like, what?
Who's this
what?
person?
I don't, I'll never understand. But whatever, that's beside the point. What I was getting at is be in integrity with this. And if you don't have this, and if you're listening to this, I'm holding up my battle planner. If you don't have a battle planner or some sort of goal setting method, there's nothing to be in integrity with. So whether it's the Bible or your goal planning or something that's creating some aspirational value for you, and then you trying to be in integrity every day, I'll tell you what, I feel a whole hell of a lot better when I get 100% of my tasks done for the day. I walk a little taller. My shoulders are a little further back. I got a little more pep in my step. I sleep a little easier. The relationships I have with my girlfriend and her daughter and my kids and my friends and everybody else, it's better when I'm in integrity. And when I'm out of integrity, then that's where I start to get a little self-conscious. I start to doubt relationships. I start to doubt my own value that I provide. I fall into comparison trap with other people when I'm not in integrity with this.
Absolutely. I love it, man. Jacob Paulson, at what age do you take a boy, your son, or a young man in your life and take him from needing to be provided for to teaching him to be providing? And not just a financial way, in a way of serving their mom instead of the other way around, or the sense where they become the up and coming man that leads by serving and serving by leading. Men of integrity and usefulness.
I think it happens around, let me say it this way. I think it starts around age 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's much you can do beforehand. You know, you're still engaging, being there, being present, and really you're just being present and being an example. But if you're not thinking about that kind of stuff at age 3 or 4 years old, like having them clean up their room, potty training them, having them engage around the house and doing chores and projects. You know, if you're not having them clean out the car because they spilled French fries everywhere, like if you're not doing those things at age 3 or 4 years old, I think you're really missing the mark. And now granted, it's going to become more evolved as time goes. As they get older, there's going to be more projects, there's going to be more chores, there's going to be more tasks, there's going to be more things to do. Then it's getting a job, contributing, like not buying everything for them. When it comes to grades, you know, keeping their grades up and where they need to be, or being active in sports in order to validate you, maybe paying for their car insurance or their cell phone bill or whatever it might be. But also then being present and available and showing them what you do, how you do it, how you show up. Hey, Kip, I just kept going. I know you didn't hear a lot of that, but I just kept going.
You're good.
But just being present and available as they get older, and then taking them on things, whether it's taking them to work, involving them in your projects, taking them on hunting trips, and letting them see you interact with other people. It should be done. I don't know if you caught it, Kip. I said it starts at age 3 or 4. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
It's got to start that early, and then it progresses over time. And then ideally what happens is they hit 18 and they're like, Dad, I want to go. No ill will, no discontent, no frustration. But when I was 18, I left. It wasn't because I wasn't happy or the relationship with my mom wasn't great. It was just, that's what happens. And from the time I was little to the time I became an adult at 18, that's what she was doing, ensuring that I was out on my own. I think the question, I don't think you're asking it this way, but the way you're saying it almost makes it sound like one day we're just supposed to turn it on and they're supposed to be independent. Well, guys, it doesn't work like that. Give them projects, give them chores, give them tasks, give them responsibility, let them deal with consequences of their poor decision making. And I think by the time 18 rolls around, it's like a no-brainer. They're chomping at the bit to get out of there and be independent.
Yeah. I can't help but see a correlation here. I think it is part of the human condition to want to contribute in meaningful ways. And when you're not, you lack self-confidence, you lack purpose, and you lack meaning in your life. Maybe said another way, you feel depressed and you don't know what your role is in the world. So your children, our employees, our coworkers, our spouses, everybody, the best way for us to find fulfillment in life is to contribute in meaningful ways, is through service, is that you feel great about who you are and the role that you're playing in the world. We shouldn't be robbing our kids of it because they're too young. Let them contribute in meaningful ways. I spent this last weekend, I was putting up smoke detectors in the house because we can't get occupancy at the lake house without freaking 40 smoke detectors all over the place. And at first, I was tempted. Kids, get out of my way. Go do something, right? Let me get this done. And I could, for whatever reason, there's a moment there where my daughter was kind of like wandering around. And I'm like, hey, babe, do you want to help me? And she's like, yeah, totally. Before you know it, she's up on the ladder. She's wiring the smoke detectors instead. I'm having her check if there's electrical current first, right? Like she's putting on wire nuts.
With her tongue or her finger, having her check the current, see if it's there.
Trust me, I checked
Stick
the
your
breaker.
tongue on it, you'll know.
Telling her to use the little tester. Oh, this tester, that's how you make sure. And her day was better. Why? Because she contributed.
And your day was worse
just
because you had to it took two
totally
or three times as long.
It took twice as long. I'm sure all those smoke detectors don't work because the wire nut was not tightened good enough. But what's the purpose?
Wouldn't it be
right?
ironic if it was one of the wires from the smoke detector that started the fire?
Oh, don't even knock on wood here. Don't even say something like that. I would lose my crap. All that work in the house burned out. I'd be miserable. But that's life. That's how we find purpose and meaning in life, is by contributing.
Yeah, for sure. Well said.
And that's probably why kids are. Sorry, that's probably why kids are depressed. Because
probably why you're depressed. How many men are depressed?
Yeah, you're contributing zero. You're not contributing. What are you doing? Entertaining yourself, or are you making a difference? If you're not making a difference, you're not going to find fulfillment and purpose.
I think that goes back to Prumitt's question before as well. Like
totally.
Yeah, self-worth. Cool. What's next, Kip?
Yeah. All right. Next question. All right, John Martin Sick. Sorry, John.
I don't know. I don't know who. I didn't look at him, so I don't know who it is. I'll have to
John
look.
Martin Sick. I was on a day trip after church with my wife and 9-month-old son, and on the way home, the serpent belt broke on the family vehicle, so we had to find a place to stay. Headlights shut off a couple miles out from the hotel, and had to stick my flashlight out the window. I love that. Owning all the cool stuff is great, but it doesn't do any good at home. What do you keep in your vehicles? And is it actually what you would need for an unexpected overnight stay? By ourselves, we can make do with almost any situation, but do we have what is needed when our families are with us?
Yeah, I like that question. I like that you were hanging out the window with your flashlight. That's
Dude,
cool.
me too.
Like innovation, adapting.
That's Paraguay. That's like, you can relate to it because that's like straight up Sevier County, Paraguay.
Totally.
Making do, small town approach, right?
For sure. Not to mention, you should have a spotlight in there for, going out and shooting rabbits. So you should always have a spotlight in there. What do I have in my car? I've got an extra firearm. I've got a medical kit, so your basic medical kit, including a tourniquet. That stuff's important. Bandages, a tourniquet, and all your basic scissors, that sort of thing. We've got a few blankets in there. I've got my jumper cables. The other thing I have is this battery-powered jumper cable thing. You can charge it via USB and then keep it in your car, and so it works really well. I've used it several times. Let's see, what else do I have in there? Water filtration is in there. I also keep some cash on hand in there. I keep about $100 in small bills in there because you never know when you might need some cash, right? Yeah, I think that's about it. I might have some snacks in there too, like some snacks that stay for a little bit. Freeze-dried food is the best. I might have some actually freeze-dried meals. I think I have maybe 3 or 4 meals in there because they're light. They don't take up a lot of space, and all they need is water. Look, having it cold is not going to be awesome, but it's better than not eating if you need it. So, yeah, that's what I've got. Do you have anything else other than that, Kip?
No, I got the same stuff. I have a tactical bag underneath my one seat that has water filtration. I got flashlights, knives, food. I don't have blankets, which is, once you said it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Same thing with cash. I got cash in there as well. One thing I've done recently that's kind of fun, I'm in the process of getting this all worked out. So I bought these old school ham radios, and I have one in my truck with a truck mount, so you could get better range, like a truck antenna. So I could just pop it on.
Oh, yeah.
Extra battery and a cigarette adapter for it. And then I plan to have one in my wife's car, and then I have another one that stays in the house. And then I just keep them off. I've tested them a little bit in regards to like range, and it's been quite shocking on how
That's awesome.
some serious range I can get with the truck antenna. It's really
Yeah,
impressive.
I don't have that. I should consider that for sure.
Yeah. I'll give you one.
The other thing that
blanket, and then we'll.
No, you get your own. I'm keeping my own stuff. Until I need it, and then I'll be like, God damn it, I should have traded with Kip. The other thing I have in there is you got me a couple of years ago this like USB charging station, but it's like the highest of the best thing there is. It's probably dead at this point, so this is a good reminder to go charge it. But I love having the USB charger available because, man, what if your cell phone dies?
Exit. Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. And then I also have some tools in there. Like I didn't mention, I have some basic tools in there that I might need, including, this is one thing I always do. I always upgrade and get the best socket set that I can, just in case I need to take and change a tire, because that little tire iron that they give you, sometimes it doesn't work right, or it's, flimsy and cheap. I had this happen maybe 2-3 months ago, and I was trying to turn the lug nut and it stripped the actual tire iron. And so I was SOL, but I remembered I had that I upgraded the socket set, and I just leave it in my toolbox, and I was able to grab that, throw it on there, and that's easy. So that's one thing that I have that has actually saved me. So it's another thought.
Yeah. A rope. I have some rope too, actually, that I keep in there. Some like climbing
rope's
rope.
Always good. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
What's next?
Garrett Brock. We're going to hop over to Facebook. Garrett Brock. Due to the rise in number of divorce, my question is about co-parenting with ex-partner, but I would appreciate hearing your thoughts on dealing with your ex-partner's new spouse and or being the new spouse to a partner with children and dealing with their ex-partner as a step-parent. For example, do you attempt to create an extra positive relationship with other co-parents or just remain neutral and avoidant when possible? I understand that there's no reset guidelines or rule book in this area, but I want the best outcome for my family. I hope this isn't too broad of a topic. I appreciate your transparency in life as we all learn on each other as men and we learn together.
I can't speak to being with a new spouse or her being with a new spouse. I can't speak to that because I'm not in that situation. But I will say,
would you approach it anyway, though? Because I would want to know how you would approach it. Sorry.
Yeah, I think in that circumstance, what I would do is just have some very clear lines of communication with my spouse about the expectation, about even before that person becomes a spouse, as you're dating, what role are you wanting me to play? How do you want me to help you raise your children? Because that's a likelihood. What does that look like to you? Where's the line? Like, I think these are all really good conversations to have, making sure that those lines of communication are open. As far as dealing with the spouse of your ex, again, I'm not in that situation, so I can't speak from experience, but I think I would want to have the most respectful relationship with that person as I can. They're going to be a big part of my children's lives. And if I create a bunch of unnecessary contention and animosity and hostility, that's inevitably going to pour down to my children. It may make me look bad, which undermines my credibility and influence with them. It could potentially cause legal problems, altercations that I'm not interested in getting into. So it's easy for me to say from where I sit right now, because things change when the reality of the situation takes place. But from a level-headed perspective, I think that's where I would try to come from. And then same thing with dealing with your new wife's ex, if that's the case, is, as respectful as it can possibly be. You don't have to be chums or buddies or go on vacations together. I think that's weird, but if it works for you, then cool. But I think that's a conversation you should have with your spouse. But I would attempt to make it as cordial and respectful as possible. I think I would try to be as accommodating as I possibly can within reason, making sure that our boundaries are established, communicated, and upheld. But yeah, I'm not interested in a bunch of unnecessary contention from any party involved. And so I think the best way to do is just keep as level-headed as you can, be as cordial and respectful and polite as you can, and hope that she made a good choice. Hopefully you made a good choice, and do the best you can. That's my thought. Again, I don't know. I'm not in that boat, but that's what I think of.
Yeah, I mean, super hard to do, but like his question, right? Create an extra positive relationship, or just remain neutral and avoidant. Absolutely,
no, positive.
A more positive relationship.
Right.
It's going to serve your kids
possible.
better. It serves you better. Yeah. Like, of course, attempt to do that as much as humanly possible. Yeah. Better for your kids.
And I also think, there's also a case to be made for edifying another person too,
Totally.
Like an ex, if the kids say something, I try to use those opportunities as moments to edify my ex. Like I would never, I don't have much to speak ill of anyways, but I would never tear her down in front of my kids. Like it doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So I do always try to be, of course I'm a human. I have my own thoughts and frustrations, but I try as best I can not to let those spill out into their relationship with their mother. That's important to me too.
Yeah, totally.
And you don't have to lie, by the way. Like,
okay.
I think some people will lie, like, oh, she's amazing, I love her, she's great. And if she's not, like, I don't know if you have to lie about it either, but I don't think you need to take that's not my situation. I want to throw that disclaimer out there, but I don't think you need to lie to the kids. Like, be honest, but also, if you're going to err on the side of grace, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, totally. All right, Ryan Parton, regarding your recent discussion on rationalization, I like what Kip said about it being a cue that he knows the thing he's rationalizing is wrong and that he uses it to trigger to do the opposite. Discussing this with other brothers, rationalizing can look awfully a lot like carefully planning of effective tactics. What are some indicators for you that identifies the difference between those two?
Yeah, we've talked about this. So rationalization is an excuse. And there's a difference between a reason and an excuse, in my mind anyway. Yeah. So let me define what I mean by that. If you miss a deadline at work, there's a reason you missed it. Because if there wasn't a reason, then you wouldn't have missed it.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to identify the reason. And the difference between a reason and an excuse is a reason is forward thinking and it continues the conversation. An excuse is like the period at the end of the sentence. It's done. Hey, we missed the deadline because old asshole over here missed whatever he was going to do. So there you go. That's an excuse. A reason would be, hey, we missed the deadline. The team got behind on a few things. We were waiting on a few things. And I really wasn't that clear with my communication, or I didn't check in as often as I should have. And I should have been more assertive in checking in with the team to make sure we were on task. And so here's what we're going to do to rectify this situation and to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. I mean, it could still be the same thing, but I think it's about the way that you frame it. Is it, hey, this is what happened, hands up, nothing I can do about it. That's an excuse. A reason is, hey, yeah, this happened and we've identified the problem. We've fixed it in these ways, and this is what we're going to do moving forward. That's a difference to me.
Would you say most excuses result with the idea of it's outside of your control versus a reason always comes back to ultimately what you could or could have not done, or what pivots you're going to make, versus an excuse often it's like, well, it's over here and there's nothing I could do about it, and
Yeah, because an excuse is somebody rarely says something like this as an excuse. I suck. There are people who say it, right? They beat themselves up, but that's the exception, not the rule. Most of the time it's, well, yeah, I didn't do it because that guy. Or yeah, I didn't have enough time, or my boss didn't get me this, or she acted this way. And so what do you expect? That's most of the conversation around excuses. It's all externally focused. Versus a reason would be, yeah, my boss didn't get us the information that we needed, but maybe I should have been a little bit more clear and forthright about getting all the pertinent information I needed. And so it's not excusing your boss. He should still get that information to you, but also it's putting some responsibility on you, which is really the only thing you can control. And so you might, in this situation, go to your boss and say, hey, boss, I just have some questions I need to clear up because I don't think I have all the information. Are you saying ... And then he says, oh, yeah, sorry, man, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't even think about that. Thanks for bringing that up. So, yeah, no problem. Is there some sort of system that we could follow to make sure like all of this is relayed just so my team can get all the information to you on time and make you look the best we can? Like, I might not say it like that, but ideally that's what you're trying to do. And so it's still that he didn't get the information to you, but your framing is what can I do to ensure this is better from him moving forward? That's leadership, by the way. And so you might be, you have a lot of guys who are like, I'm so young and I'm in a position of leadership. How should I lead? That's how you lead. By asking good questions, by anticipating problems, by coming up with solutions and systems. These are all leadership principles before the title.
Yeah. How often do you think integrity plays a part in this? Excuses versus reasons?
Well, an excuse is, it's not a lie. I don't think an excuse is always a lie. I just think it's a misrepresentation of the truth. Because if in order for it to be an excuse that you're going to use, there has to be some validity to it. Otherwise, you're lying, and you wouldn't use that as an excuse. So in relationships, we often see this. Well, my wife, she's such a bitch. There might be some validity to that. Like she might have an attitude, right? She might be responding to you in a negative way. You might not like the way that she talks to you or treats you. So there's probably some truth to what you're saying. But is it entirely her problem? No, it's your problem because you're married to her. So even though there might be some truth to it, what can you do to maybe respond differently to her? To support her with things that she needs, to help in some ways that you can, and see, I'm not saying it will, but wouldn't you want to see if that would change the way that she would respond to you? I'd be willing to bet it does. Yeah. So I don't know if it's an integrity issue as much as it is just you got to look at the entire picture and focus on the part that you can control, not what's outside of your control.
Yeah, I like it. Nicholas Wade, it's a phrase people like to throw out, but what do y'all consider signs of a toxic work environment? And when is the best time to make an exit from a job that exhibits these? Thank you for all you do.
We did this question last week, Kip.
Did we?
We did.
But apparently it wasn't that good. Try again. Joking.
I didn't.
Right,
I didn't
sorry.
answer. It was only you who answered on that one. So.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
That's a joke. I did answer that one.
Okay.
It wasn't that good of a joke. So okay.
I'm just slow.
No, we talked about.
Because I'm flustered that I messed up. All right.
Yeah. What did we talk with the toxic work environment? We talked about lack of advancement opportunities, lack of teamwork. There was a few other things that we talked about, but yeah, we definitely addressed this one last
autonomy.
week.
Okay. Then I think we're up on questions. That was the only extra one that I thought I had that we didn't cover. So
perfect. Cool. Well, guys, we had some great questions today. Let us know what you guys thought of the headline segment. And Kip, we'll come back next week with a couple new headlines and talk about that because I think that's fun. And again, these are cultural conversations that impact us. So let's have these conversations. And we don't always have to agree. I don't think my answer is always right. It's usually right, but not always. Like I'm willing to look at other things, but there is 5% of the time that I might be off a little bit. Again, that's a joke. But thank you for saying, I appreciate that. I got to work on my jokes. My delivery's failing today.
You're good.
You're good. You're funny.
I'm just not as. You're great, and people love you.
You're really great and funny, Kip. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because maybe this is an old man. I don't know. Lately, I've been realizing that my role is not to convince anybody of anything. I don't try to change people. I don't try to coerce people. I don't try people to do something they don't want to do. Really, often I realize that my role in life has more been in the space of to illuminate and present possibilities for others to consider for themselves. And that's it. Because if any of you guys listening pivots based upon what we're saying due to argument, but it goes against your nature or whatever, and you're just doing it because the Ryan and Kip show said so, then that's fleeting anyway. Right? Most impactful change and growth is always going to be in the space of your own creation. And this is a whole other bag. Like I really love this. Like we could rant on this some other time. But in the highest level of understanding and learning is creation. There's a concept called Bloom's taxonomy, creation. And when I create my own meaning from what I hear from you, Ryan, when I find it like it now becomes part of me, it's like my version of it now, that's way more sticky and transformative than me just pivoting and doing things because, you know, this influencer said so and so I'll try it out. That stuff doesn't stick. And so more and more I realize that, I just feel like our job is to create possibilities and things for people to consider. But in the end, you got to figure it out for yourself. Not because we said it, not because of anybody else, because you know. And it's only through that shift of paradigm at your level that anything really matters and sticks with you anyway.
Yeah, I like that, Kip.
What are your thoughts?
I wrote down 3 questions as you were saying that, because I feel like obviously we're not asking questions in this setting because we're answering our questions, you know, but I wrote these 3 questions down that I try to ask in a roundabout way or in some sort of way with other people that I want to see succeed and win. And that's what I want. Like I want the men who listen to succeed. I want my kids to succeed. I want, you know, my relationships to succeed. Like these are all things I want. So these are the 3 questions that have come to mind. Number 1, what do you think? You know, just trying to get somebody else's perspective, not so you can figure out and manipulate and coerce and pigeonhole them into certain things, but just what do you think about it? You know, if my kid comes to me with a problem about, let's say, sports, they're not playing or something. Let's say my oldest comes to me, he's not getting enough playing time. Okay, do I go, well, that's because your coach is a dick. That's because he's playing favorites. That's because of this. That's because of that. Like, I mean, I could do that. Plenty of parents do that. But I think a better response is, well, I don't know. What do you think about it? Well, I'd like to get more playing time. I wish I could, but I just think the coach is playing favorites. Okay, well, then the next question is, why do you think that? Well, I think that because, you know, his son's getting playing time, but I don't think he's as good as I am. And so it just seems unfair. And then the third question is, okay, where do you go with that information? Like, what do you do now? There's nothing you can do with that information, right? Like you can't change if you really believe your coach is playing favorites, like you're not going to change his mind about it. So what do you do with that?
What are you going to
Nothing.
do?
Nothing. That's a dead end. So let's go back. Why do you think another reason, is there anything else? Are there any other reasons you may not be getting the playing time that you want? Well, you know, I missed practice 2 days last week. Okay. Do you think that may have had something to do with your coach's decision not to give you as much playing time this weekend? Yeah, probably. Okay. So what do you do with that information? Well, I really need to get to practice more. Yeah, that'd be good. What else? I could work on throws or work on this technique at home. Yeah, for sure. Can I help you with that? Maybe we can do it this weekend. Like you're letting that person figure out the problem by just asking them questions. I didn't say anything. I didn't provide any answer. It's just simply asking questions. And I'm not great at this. I just, in moments of clarity like we're talking now, where you're not emotionally vested in the decision-making process, it's easy to say this is what we ought to be doing more of. And this is something that I'm trying to be better at.
Totally. Well, and I feel in that example, if Brecken came with you and you just jumped to all the answers, Well, Bregan, I'll tell you why. It's because you missed practice 2 times last week, and coaches think your loyalty's there, and you're actually not as good as he is, and so you just need to practice more. You want to practice? It won't stick the same.
No way.
It just
No
won't.
way.
He'll be like, whatever, Dad. And he's still holding on to it's unfair, and he's choosing his favorites. It's
I remember when I was in high
how much
school.
we have to come. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just going to say, I remember in high school, my senior year, my coach pulled me from a game. I was catching. He pulled me from a game. And I was so confused. I was like, what the heck? And he put this other kid in. And I went and asked my mom, I'm like, he pulled me. I guess all pissed off. I'm like, he pulled me from the game. Like, I'm the senior. I don't understand why. And I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Go ask your coach. And so that's what I did. I'm like, hey, coach, like I didn't want to do that. I don't want to have that conversation, but I'm like, hey, you pulled me from the game. Like, what gives? He's like, well, Ryan, I told you to practice in the off season. Did you? No. I told you to work on this and this and this. Did you do that? No. Okay, well, it showed in your performance. Like this isn't a surprise. And he's like, so you have a couple options now. You can quit if you want, if you don't want to be here or whatever, or you can be a good member of the team and fill in another role. You can help this catcher be better because you are good. Like you can help him. And so that's what I decided to do. You know, it sucked. It stung. I felt like I was entitled to that because I was the senior, but I decided that I would help this guy be better. And had my mom said, well, yeah, you're just because your coach is a jerk and he likes that other kid more, look, that wouldn't have served me at all.
No.
You know, on a lesser degree, I remember when I was a kid before the internet and I would say, hey, Mom, how do you spell this word? And she's like, go look it up in the dictionary. And I'm like, Mom, just tell me how to spell it. And she's like, no, just look it up. It's right over there. Go get the book and go look it up. And I'd say, what? Because you don't know it. That's probably why you don't know how to spell it. And she's like, yeah, okay. I know this game, but yes, I know how to spell it and it doesn't work on me. And I would, kick and scream and fight and gnash my teeth and wailing and all that stuff. And then, when I was done with that, 25 minutes later, I'd go look it up and figure it out. It's empowering to help people navigate their own problems. And we ought to be doing more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, call to action. Iron Council enrollment opening up on the 15th of March. Join us in that exclusive brotherhood to learn more. That's orderofman.com/Iron Council to sign up and look up the details. Of course, you can get your Order of Man swag at store.orderofman.com. And then I'm assuming, I should have confirmed before we started, so my apologies, but Uprising, I'm assuming we're full.
Yep, it's full. Yep, we're sold out on that.
Okay.
So excited to have the 20 guys out there. It's going to be awesome.
Cool. All right, sir. And then, of course, you can connect with Ryan on X and Instagram at Ryan Mickler. That's all I got, brother.
All right, guys. Appreciate the questions. Keep them coming. We'll keep giving you answers. I hope this made some sense and we gave you something to consider. Have a great day. We will catch you guys on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.